Hey Jennifer, love your videos. You've been one of my best classmates. I think we've shared most every class together, so certainly had to watch your video here in the final research presentation. I know that you are a math lady, so I liked your topic. I appreciated that. First and foremost, you kind of hooked me on why is it hard? Well, because you have to work for it. That really hits home for me. Not being accusatory, I think a lot of teachers, especially kind of veteran teachers, they fall into this comfort zone and might not want to search out that literature to integrate into math all the time. But you said you have to prepare, and I think with preparation comes a little bit of creativity. I think it is hard to find the literature to put into math, but I also think that with some creativity you can pull math out of certain literature that might not be coined as math literature. So little, keep your eyes open there. I think with your preparation comes that creativity, and then you can pull math out of literature and so forth. I loved your mention of cross-content vocabulary. I mentioned that in my presentation as well. I think I used the example of a line segment, and I said, that the line segment, take out that root word, it's not the whole line. And I took that and I relate that to a history lesson, and then the literature that we were reading that spoke about segregation. And it's not the whole population, it's a segregated part, just like a segment of that population and your line segment. So again, I think with your creativity and students' understanding of root words, they're able to float around and use that cross-content vocabulary, which you mentioned, which I think was also really great. So next thing, mega huge, because I think we teach in we teach similar age classrooms and students, and I also agree that the word problems are by far the biggest problem. And you hit the nail on the head. Like, I was watching your video, not to be too unprofessional, I'm thinking, oh, preach it, girl. So word problem, why does anyone treat a word problem like anything else but a paragraph that you read? That's all it is. It's a paragraph that you read. It is a piece of literature. Stop calling it a math word problem. Like, don't use every literature aspect you have. And in my class we call it the high five, and you mentioned it. We call it the high five: the who, what, when, where, and why. And once we fill in our five who, what, when, where, why, we fill in our main idea, or to say the main question, here in the palm of our hand. And use that strategy. We're using it in literature for comprehension. Use it in math so that the students can comprehend the question. And you have to slow down and use that strategy, because you have to ask, especially the what and the why. But what are we counting? What are we trying to figure? Who? They always have a name. Who's trying to do what in the math problem? And once you figure that out, you have that comprehension, then you're plugging in numbers, and I don't want to call it easy, but you've already crossed that first hurdle of comprehending what it is you have to do. Because I know, especially lower level students, maybe not the adolescents, but lower level students, hey, I see two numbers, add them together, that's the easiest thing to do. And and I guarantee, I know you have the same problem. I see every student, two numbers, add them together, three numbers, add them together, it's the easiest thing to do. No, we have to comprehend and dissect that word problem, and use every literature strategy in the book to do that. So I love that. And as you're speaking about that, I'm thinking, I said, oh Lord, I said, but today, that's not enough. And you mentioned it. How do you get writing? Well, every math problem, word problem now, and especially with the standardized state testing, the students have to write and justify their answers. And is it a true assessment? That's a whole nother soapbox to jump on. But if the computation is only half the problem, you then have to take your understanding and the comprehension of the word problem, just like you mentioned, and now compute it, and then use all those literature strategies that you're speaking about that we need to put into math to compose an intelligible justification for their answers. So again, just a great job, Jennifer. I really enjoyed having you in every class. I wouldn't at all mind our teaching paths crossing one day. I like to just kind of, you know, see you in real life instead of through cameras all the time. I'm going to finish by saying that I love your math is a language all its own, which it truly is. And we have to remember that sometimes, especially when students are really struggling in math. Like, it is almost like learning a whole new language. So, again, kudos. You know, hey, have a good summer, Jennifer. Later.